my mind is open to it, it's been clear as day that life's been guiding me this whole way with breadcrumbs. And I never looked. I wasn't awake enough to look. I wasn't cognizant enough to look. I mean, it was amazing now that I can look back. And I think it was just the suppression of the being a child and wanting to be normal that caused the 20 years in between. But I'm just happy I've made it this far. And I realize now why I'm here.
All right. So, well, I think there's stages that we go through in life, and childhood is childhood is, there's a lot of enlightenment in childhood, and but it's not the same as being an adult. So there's actually quite a few stages that we go through in life. You know, first we're a young child, and then we're just soaking everything in, and then we have some more experience that we begin to form ourselves a little bit. But there's a lot happening in childhood, and I think it does. Here's what I'm going to say. I think it takes an entire lifetime to really find and fulfill your purpose.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Very wise words.
No, thanks. So tell us a little bit about your injury.
Would you like me to tell my story?
Yeah, I would.
Would you like me to tell my story?
I think that's a very beneficial thing that our listeners would like to hear.
Yes. Well, I always say I'm Stephanie Freeman, active mother from South Georgia, but being active has not been easy for my life. On June the 4th of 1993, at the age of 14 years old, I was involved in an automobile accident, and I lived 2 months of my life in a coma on life support from a traumatic brain injury. I had a lung injury and a brain injury. I wasn't expected to ever get out of that state of my life. However, with faith, strength, and strong determination, I did pull through. But I woke up to find I was bound to a wheelchair, and I was unable to walk. I can remember being told I would never leave that hospital. And I like to say we have all distinct moments that help define our life in certain ways. And I want to share with you an extremely defining moment in my life that has led me from doing the Boston Marathon, led me many ways. And it actually has led me to where I am today. Every day I think of it. I recall this day like it was yesterday. It was probably August of 1993. I say it was the day that I was reborn. It was my rebirth. There I was sitting in a wheelchair in a hallway of a hospital in Albany, Georgia. I was sitting in front of a nurse's station, and I had my head hanging down and I had spit rolling out of my mouth. I had no idea why. I remember pulling my head up, wiping my mouth, looking around me, and I was like, "What are you doing, Stephanie? What are you doing?" I had no idea. I had turned 15 years old when I was in a coma. And I remember the 15-year-old mind saying, "Get up, get out of here."
Yeah.
And I unbelted chair, and I was going to stand up. And I fell completely to the floor, on my knees of that hospital floor. I fell, couldn't walk. I didn't know why. I didn't realize I'd been in a coma 2 months. But that day, on my knees in that hospital, it has been a very extremely defining moment in my life. And I made a promise to myself that day, even though I was hearing people say, "You'd never walk again, Stephanie. You won't walk again." Well, I made a promise to myself that day. I was not going out like that. I was going to walk again. And I walked out of that hospital on October the 8th of 1993. And that moment was very humiliating, but it was very defining, and it's paved the way for me because I've held on to that piece of me.
So you had been in the wheelchair before you woke up at that particular instant, or you were just laying in bed? Is that? I
had already come. That was when I realized I was who I was. That was after 2 months of being in a coma. I had had a trach in my throat. I remember talking real low. I mean, all of these things just started pouring back into me. It's just unbelievable every day that I've been through all I've been through.
Yeah.
And I realized, you know, powerful message.
So your family was around you when you woke up?
Yes, they were. And I recall some of the nurses and doctors saying to me, to my family, it's time to build ramps at your house. Your child is going home in a wheelchair. I remember that every day of my life. But that day on my knees of that hospital floor, I said to myself, I knew I could walk. There was no holding. I knew more than what they. So I said, I'm not going out like that. So I did. I walked out on October the 8th of 1993.
So I can't even imagine being in a coma for 2 months. And then,
But let me say this. When I walked out of those hospital doors on October the 8th of 93, next month will be 26 years for me.
wow.
I left every emotion. I left everything behind me. I didn't want to remember that. I was 15 years old and I wanted to be normal.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I suppressed everything for 20 years.
So that's why
20 years later.
So before we move on here, what you're talking about is very important. Go ahead.
Well, 20 years later, and I'm now I do mental and brain health advocating all over this state. Anywhere I can do it, I do it, just because of those moments in that hospital. But 20 years later, this is how my mind, something just changed in the chemistry of my brain. And all of these memories and everything started waking up before me in my mind. And I still had things come back to me. So, I mean, it's beautiful and it's heartwarming to me. But I was in Boston and I was working at the Boston Marathon, April 15th of 2013. And that might be a memory that you know. That was the day of the Boston Marathon bombings.
Oh.
And I was not doing the race. Like I said, I was working it. And I was at mile 25 and a half. I was in the Prudential Mall having pizza with some friends. Because I was at Expo. And we went down to the mall and we heard a big crash. It was like two cars just colliding together. 10 seconds later, we heard a noise, like it sounded like a plane had hit the building. So the whole mall stampeded. The whole food court I was in stampeded.
Wow.
I had to jump over tables to get out of there. We run to the streets, and like I said, it was about 25 and a half of the Boston Marathon. I mean, and it was crazy wild. And we saw the smoke coming up, and the runners that were coming ahead, they didn't realize what was going on. It was just a lot. And then the SWAT team started coming out of the sky. It was a lot of tragedy that I saw. I didn't see any death, but I flew back to Georgia the next day. At 1 o'clock the next day, I flew back to Atlanta, and I started having flashbacks from 93. When I would sleep, I didn't sleep very often, but when I would sleep, I would have dreams of them. I was having terrible PTSD. That's when my PTSD kicked. And I had terrible fatigue, but I would pull myself off the couch and I would run these roads on that map to help me get over all of this. Well, I started writing and I started speaking everywhere. And I was able to get over that through my running.
Yeah. So now, from that date, when was your own running of the Boston Marathon?
Okay, I had ran maybe 3 marathons by then in 2013. And then I decided after that event, I was getting to Boston the next year. And I ran Boston Marathon in 2014. It was a beautiful run because everyone ran in honor of what happened the year before. It was hotter than hell that year too, but it was amazing to do. That's when I did the marathon, the Boston Marathon.
Yeah. So I think that all of our dreams are somehow evident in our childhood. And you said you had that life-defining experience. We have a lot of life-defining experiences, but that's really one you can put your finger on. And that happened when you were 14. So,
there's been many.
By the time we're 14, if we want to really find out what our dreams are and what we should do, we can look back on our childhood. It's in there somewhere.
Exactly. Subconsciously, it's there. Just the hard work is dealing with ourselves, finding it, clearing out all the clutter.
Yeah.
It's hard work, but it's an advanced education, I consider.
Yeah. So you said somewhere that I think life has a funny way of defining our character.
Yes.
And that's true, isn't it?
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah. So yeah, I've when we go through a painful experience, it's not something. It's often something we want to shove aside. Mm-hmm. And I think in this society today, there's so many people that really don't know what are my dreams, and it's always because we shove them aside because they're there.
That's beautiful. True.
Yeah. I think it's okay to mention here, but it reminds me of the Apostle Paul when he was on the road to Damascus. Mm-hmm. And what was said to him was in the King James Version. There's probably a better version to read, but in terms of being more up to date in our language, but it's hard for you to kick against the pricks.
Yes.
That's the King James. Well, that's what we do. And I think in this interview, that's a really powerful point that I hope our viewers can really kind of meditate on, is that we have some way of denying who we really are.
Mm-hmm. And it's injustice that we do that, because the world needs what we have that we don't think is good enough.
That's right. Can I read a quote from you?
Yes, please.
Life is a gift, and it offers us the privilege, opportunity, and responsibility to give something back by becoming more.
Actually, that's Tony Robbins' quote.
So that you had that in your blog, but that was from Tony Robbins. But I think it represents what you think, doesn't it?
I totally agree. Yes.
To me, one of the most important thing we can do is become ourselves, so that we can actually give something back to society. That is how we give back to society, is by becoming more of ourselves.
Yes, and life, like I said before, life leads with breadcrumbs. All we have to do is look around and listen. It's there. Yeah. I'll tell you about, after I got through with the running and I got over the PTSD struggle that I was going through, it was a few months there. It was so rough. I was going to get my head examined. It was really bad. And I did that because the running helped me. It helped me through. Well, so I shook all of that off. I was okay. I was up and going. And this is where my nonprofit comes in. So I do some modeling, and I was doing some modeling in Atlanta, Georgia. I was in Woodstock. Uh-huh. And this is very defining for me, because this was life speaking clear as day to me. Okay. It was a tennis wear company, and the people that own the tennis wear company, they did the photos. The father did the photos. Uh-huh. Well, he didn't realize my story. He didn't know what was going on. He just got my contract. Well, So we did it on some tennis courts there in Woodstock, and he gets a phone call after he started taking a few pictures. And he says he was really frustrated, and he said to me, look, I want you to walk up to Starbucks, and it was maybe 5 minutes down the road. He said, you can wear the tennis wear. I've got to go. I've got to go get my son. His wife had called him. Well, so I was like, I was high on life. I can't say my ego wasn't a mile wide there. So I said, okay, that's cool with me. And I went up to Starbucks, and I was there maybe 20 minutes, and then he pulls back in. I will remember this clear as day, just like that day in that hospital. I got in the car, I flipped around looked in the back seat, and there was a 8-year-old child in the back seat in a car seat. He had his head hanging down. He had spit rolling out of his mouth from a brain injury. And his dad was in the front seat, and he was really frustrated, fussing about whether we didn't have the time or whatever. And it was a complete moment of grace for me. I get teary-eyed thinking about it. But I remember looking at him, and I put my hand on him, and I said, it's okay. I know this situation way more than you would ever know. And I was able to calm him down just in that moment. Yeah. So we went back and did all of the photos, and that little boy had a brain injury from immunizations as a child, and he was normal for a year. And then when he had his next immunizations, he was completely vegetative state. But I keep up with the family today. That made such an impact on me. I still keep up with that little boy. But after that moment on the tennis court, after I did all of those photos, I went back and I started my nonprofit, Share Your Strong, which brings inspiration, encouragement, help. I just like to be there for people because I realize the power I've got in just being me and just being my story. So like you said, the power we have is being ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. And when you get to talk to some people, you have the privilege of doing these interviews, you see how many different ways we can be ourselves.
Very well. That's true.
Yeah. It's, there are things that I didn't want to face. And my dad was the strongest guy in the world, to me. And he got Parkinson's disease when he was older. And I could hardly say that word for many years.
Yeah.
And, I just didn't want to face the fact that my father had gotten Parkinson's disease. And it changed him from immensely strong to incapable. And so when I became a physical therapist assistant, among other things, I thought, I am never going to work in a hospital or a skilled nursing facility. Never. Well, I've spent years doing that now. And I found out that, now I can accept some of those things, and I have a more of an awareness about how mortal we are and about how we are all the same. We need to have patience with one another because we all have the same frailties and the same ailments.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look deep enough within anybody, you see yourself. We're all. So being patient is the key.
Yeah. So I've had the privilege to work in a place that I didn't think I could work in, and it was actually better than the places I was working in trying to avoid that. So, isn't that something?
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, I've kind of come to peace with what happened to my dad a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Come to peace with all of I have peace within myself. And I believe when we begin to change and we begin to awaken, we create that awakening wave among people. So being ourselves are very powerful, as you said.
Yeah. So along the way, I have another quote that I think is from you. Never give up.
That's me.
Yeah. Now that was you. You see, that's part of your gift. That was you from the time you were a little kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once I was like taking a look back, I'm built for this. I'm built for never giving up. So when I come across, whenever I have these moments in my life where I think I cannot go on, I look back to those days, to that on my knees of that hospital. And as I said, it has paved my way, that moment.
Yeah.
So paying attention to it has been a gift I finally see.
So where do you see never give up in your life before the accident? I have a feeling that you were nurtured in that direction a little bit somehow.
Yes. Well, I've always been, I guess I've always had that spunk. I've always wanted to do and go. And when things got hard, I stuck with it.
So is that part of what you see in the rest of your family, or is that a special gift that you had that made you stand out?
I see it in most of my family, especially my son. My son is so much like me, it's unreal. He's got that steer determination. When he gets something in his mind, it doesn't leave until it's done. And that's exactly how I've always been.
That's a gift for sure. So you had to apply a lot of that. Now, so I like to run. I'm almost 70 now, but and I haven't been very competitive. But to get into the Boston Marathon, most of our listeners might know, or some might not know, you have to qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
So was there a journey and an ongoing journey in qualifying for the marathon?
No, it wasn't. I mean, oh, absolutely. I mean, I set out for it. I had a running coach, and I'm not running with him anymore, but I'm still, know him and keep in contact, but for 20 years. And I was gradually awakening in that time, but I set out. I remember I had my child on June the 10th or July the 10th of 2006. I told my running coach, I ran through my pregnancy. I told my running coach after I had my baby, I breastfed him for 6 weeks. I said, it's time. I'm ready to start training. I've always wanted to run the Boston Marathon. It's always been appealing to me that you have to qualify.
Yeah.
And it's prestigious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, let's get started. So after I breastfed my son, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to train. But I was doing 5Ks, along the way. And I ran the the Jacksonville Bank Marathon was my first marathon, which I highly recommend. It's a great marathon. In December of 2010.
So that was 4 years after you started working with the running coach?
I worked with him, probably 3 years prior to that year. But he's been in my life as a coach, a mentor, just a good friend for, 15, 20 years, a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So how many years did it take you from the time you set that as a goal to when you achieved qualifying for Boston and running it?
Let's see. 8 years.
8 years. So there's a real example of persistence and staying with it. And you were making steady progress. Did you have some setbacks?
Yeah, of course. And I had a newborn, and I had, a lot of things along the way. A divorce. Me and my husband got divorced. It was a lot, but I made it. I never gave up.
You did. And did you have a story about the necklace that you got? Was that the first marathon, or was that the Boston after you?
Oh, the 26.2?
Yeah.
I bought that necklace. What year? gosh, it was when I was married. So it was probably 2004, because I look at running as a blessing for me with everything I've been, everything. I was told I'd never walk again. I
Yeah.
was told, you know, my life, I would be that handicapped child in that wheelchair. And I look at running and being active as it's a gift. It's awesome for me that I even can do that.
It is.
God blessed me with that. The determination to do it, actually.
Yeah. So that took 8 years. And what message would you have for people training for the Boston Marathon? Is there anything? What's that?
Nothing but never give up. Stay your course.
Yeah.
Stay your course.
So,
Focus on the positive. Don't focus on the negative.
boy, that's a lesson. Yeah. Every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you actually, I have seen one video of you running, and you actually have pretty good running form. I think you have really good running form.
Thank you.
Did your coach help you with that, or was that natural that you had that feeling in your body?
Well, my coach helped me with it, but I've never thought I had good running form because of my brain injury. I was hit on my right side, so it affected my left side.
Yeah.
And I'm weaker on this side. I remember dragging this leg.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that in the videos too, but you don't do that so much anymore, do you?
I've kept up the strength training, and it's been a pleasure to do for me because, of course, it gives you give off the feel good chemicals in your brain, so you're feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did the training to help build my legs back up, and I think I know I've come a long way, because I remember being called crip when I was in high school because this leg was
After
so
you went
weak.
back to high school?
And
Yeah.
I know.
They called you that. That was very nice of them, wasn't it?
I know they called me crip. I was
Yeah.
called crip. I remember that, but I didn't let that weigh me down. I didn't focus on any negative on it. It's put fire in my soul.
Yeah.
So I didn't let it bother me.
So you don't experience the left side difference near as much as you used to.
I don't as much today, unless I'm on a marathon. When I do a marathon, or when I'm doing a 5K I'm doing very fast running, that quick turnover, that left side is not as steady as my right. And in the marathon, it's mile 20. I remember looking down at my feet every marathon I've run, and my toes on my left side start bleeding. Beginning at mile 20.
They start what?
And they start bleeding.
Bleeding. Wow.
Bleeding because I've rubbed going forward. I pronate forward on this leg, this foot, because I'm picking up not as fast as the right.
Yeah.
But I do remember around mile 20 is when it starts being weaker and I start dragging it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been engaged in the Stephanie Freeman Foundation and in Share Your Strong?
I started way back then, when I had the modeling gig, and I started it. I want to say it was 2013, and it took me 2 years to be approved. And 2015 was when it kicked off. So I've been diligent with it, because I realize if you have a light, it's important to shine it on those people that don't have their light, or they have it, but you help them see their own light. So probably 2015 until today, what is that, 4 years? I've been going strong at it. But I did it before, but it wasn't under my nonprofit, of course.
Yeah. So have you had any mundane running injuries? Like people.
Oh, I've had quite a few injuries. Have you?
Yeah, I've experienced a lot of different things in my lifetime, IT band syndrome and all the stuff like that.
Me too.
Yeah, so you have to get through those too. Yeah. And what's your strategy for that? For getting through
Just
the
that was a issue for me to begin with. When I would get a stress fracture or pull a muscle, it would get you down because you're not running, you're not
That's
releasing
right.
all the feel good hormones.
Yeah.
So you feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, just staying the course and staying active in the gym helped me keep those hormones going and to pull out of depression and stuff that I would experience from those
Yeah.
injuries.
Yeah.
I owe being active to so much in my life. It has helped because I've had some dark moments
Yeah.
through a lot of, and the running, the staying in the gym, it's helped me so
So,
much.
yeah, I think that's another powerful point there is that when you can't do something, but there are other things that you can do. And
Yes.
instead of getting really, really down about I can't do exactly what I want, but what can I do in this moment? Yeah, like you say,
Yeah.
you can't run for a little while, so you go back to the gym and you enjoy that too. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's always something in the present moment that we can do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So, what do you hope to accomplish with your foundations, and how can people help you?
Well, I hope to accomplish the same thing I've been doing. Just doing a lot of peer visiting with people that need it. Um, I'm going to hold a little party for a child that I've been working with for a while in the next month. He's a brain injury survivor, and I go to DC every year. This year was the first year I didn't go to DC to advocate on Capitol Hill, but I expect to go back next year and, just keep the brain health, mental health, that awareness going. And I don't, I'm not against anything, you know, I'm not pushing I believe in natural healing, of
Mhm.
course, because it helped me, and I'm an advocate over action over medication, if at all possible. But I think the medical industry is amazing with what they do too. So I just want to get the mental health is a big thing for me.
Yeah. So not everybody who had a cause that they would like to promote goes to Washington D.C. every year. So how did you get to taking that route?
Well, I am part of the Brain Injury Advisory Council with the Brain Injury Association of America. And because I really can't, that year, that was probably 2015, that I started connecting in with people from the Brain Injury Association. And I reached out. My first year was 2015 that I went to DC. I reached out to the Brain Injury Association of America, of Georgia. I could never get a call back. So I went further. I went to the Brain Injury Association of America.
Ah,
And they say, you're welcome to go. Actually, we want you. We want the voice heard. So me and the lady I was working with, we packed our bag. We flew up there and we did our thing. We met with all of the representatives of Georgia and had our face seen and the voice heard. And ever since then I've been going back, and I was nominated by the Brain Injury Association to be with the advisory council. So I've been doing that, and I haven't been as active with that group as much this year because I just finished massage school. So but my intentions are to get a little more active with everything that I had to set aside for this schooling.
yeah. So now you're a massage therapist, but you're a neuromuscular massage therapist. You've studied that?
I know, yes, sir. I know the neuromuscular. So I studied all that in my massage school. Yes, it's very important to me because when I was going through a lot of my when PTSD issues, my depression issues, anxiety was always been terrible for me. I would use massage and reflexology. I'm a reflexologist too, but I would use that to help me because I've never taken any antidepressants. I didn't want to take that route. So I did it that way. And it's, led me on a journey to doing it for other people.
Okay. You know what I forgot to do, Stephanie?
What?
I forgot to go live on Facebook. So now we're live. Because we kind of, I had it all lined out here, and then I forgot. We kind of got a little trouble signing on. So, but now we're live on Facebook, or we should be.
Okay.
Soon. We will have the recording for this, and I can give you that. Anything you'd like to edit out of it, we can do that. But I did forget to do that.
Oh, it's okay. It's no problem.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to get even more active in that. And can you tell me?
Do what?
Can you tell me what you learned about? There's massage school, but you had a particular neuromuscular bent on that. And can you tell me what you really learned about the nervous system? How do you help people? Yeah.
Well, I think I've discovered through my schooling and just through my own journey, the spine is absolutely beautiful. The nervous system, it's beautiful, and it's an answer to a lot of our issues we have today.
Yeah.
And I love it. I've gotten into yoga full force because it helps calm the nervous system. I mean, it's been a answer to a lot of problems for me because the yoga is like a internal massage of your own body, and it's just working with it.
Especially if you do it with awareness, then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Instead of just stretching.
Right.
So, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you and how they can get in touch with your organizations?
Well, if you would like to make a donation, you're welcome to. It's shareyourstrong.org. I have the link on my Facebook, Share Your Strong, on my Stephanie Freeman. You're welcome to follow me there. I do a lot of advocacy work with all of the things I do. On Twitter at RangeMom1, I think, and because Share Your Strong was already taken. But I'm on Instagram, so Share Your Strong. So follow me. Keep up with my advocacy work and my stories.
So every brain injury is different.
Yes.
So
yes, I consider myself a high functioning brain injury survivor. And I've actually been told I was false hope before, which I didn't believe in any of that. But, every brain injury is different. We're not going to all recover. I believe in healthy eating, help the brain injury and the activity. But if you need medications, that's, necessary. So, but we're all different.
That's right. So when you had your brain injury, you knew right away that you would walk again. But
I knew it. My bones.
You've probably visited some people that maybe they won't walk again. And when you come into a room like that, or you go ahead.
When I have visited, I don't even know. I haven't kept up with them all, but so many brain injury survivors. But it's like I can see their light. I can see that they have that dark cloud over them, and they're not believing in their self. They don't see it within their own self. But I like to shine a light on them to let them know, everything's okay. You can do this. You can put forth your best effort. Make a decision for your life, like I did on my knees at that hospital floor. I made that decision. I wasn't going out like that. If you're not able to walk again, it's okay. I mean, it's okay. It's all mind.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, is how you bring your light into that room and how you encourage that person. And that's really powerful, because we don't know exactly what turns our life is going to take, but you
Yeah,
can bring that positive energy to them because you've experienced something like that, you know.
exactly. Plant a seed. And I encourage everybody, if you can help somebody smile, if you can plant a seed of encouragement, it's liberating to that person.
Yeah,
They'll believe themselves. They won't just lay there and feel sorry for themselves. That black cloud is a harsh thing to go through. And I know that firsthand. So if I can be that light and help them, if I can plant that seed, I'm going to do it.
so how do you, when you come into the room, do you bring positivity right away, or do you just listen and you share their emotion, and then when do you think you shine the light on them when do you bring that positivity? That's kind
I
of,
bring it when I feel like I like to, my intentions are to be love, to be encouragement, to
yeah.
be the inspiration. So when I intend that for myself, I feel like I'm putting off that vibration. When I walk in the room, I want to be that light, that sunshine in their eyes, because I remember it means a lot. It really does. There's been people, I could name names. There's been so many people that made such an impact on my life through the years, whether I was in that hospital or on my journey all the way up here, going through hard times. They made that impact by planting those seeds that I was able to get through this.
So that is really, really powerful. You have a lot of gifts, and they've really come out. Yeah, you do. And
Thank you.
so I recently lost a friend who brought positivity into everything. And he used to say, they used to have the WWJD bracelets, and his name was
Yeah.
John. You always used to say, well, what would John do? And I remember that now, and I actually try to do what John would do, because he was so positive. And
Right. It's
yeah,
the mirror. When someone is radiating light, radiating positivity, those mirror neurons are going off in your brain, and you're going to be the same way. I mean, well, like I said, look deep enough within anybody, you're going to find yourself. And
yeah,
that's what they're seeing. They're seeing their light.
yeah. Well, Stephanie, I'm just going to try to keep that in mind, when I work with people, because you just have this, you have it in you already. You don't try to manufacture it when you get into the situation. You're already bringing your whole self into being helpful and positive with particularly brain injury survivors, but anyone. So I think you've given our listeners, and we did record this, so it's going to be out there. Yeah. And I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today, and I really appreciate what you've shared. I'm going to think about it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Well, wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope to be talking to you again in the future sometime.
Yes, I will be glad to.
Okay. Well, you have a wonderful day, and thank you for blessing our listeners.
Thank you for asking me again.
So we'll go ahead and end the meeting now. And again, I really appreciate it, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.